You look at, by the way, just on the jobs score, I think it's so important for Democrats out there to understand this. Since the end of the Cold War, since Reagan left office, there have been 50 million American jobs created. 48 million of them, I'll repeat that, 48 out of 50 million American jobs have been created under Democratic administrations, not Republican administrations. The last three Republican presidents have one thing in common: recessions. The last three. I can't believe we've been debating the issue of jobs and the economy in comparing to contrast the Republican Party. So, look, again, all of this is, it expresses itself in terms of the work we have to do to lift up the work that Biden and Harris and the Democratic Party have broadly done. We got to show up for this guy. He's shown up for us last 3 years, the American people, the most significant economic plan. I said it on the stage, I'll say it again to you, since FDR. The CHIPS and Science Act, the infrastructure bill, the most significant investments in infrastructure since Eisenhower. $1.2 trillion, 550 billion new investments. I mean, we're seeing the benefits of that. California, we just announced this morning, the $6 billion coming into my state, and the tens of thousands of jobs being created just on our first in the nation high-speed rail program because of that infrastructure investment. I mean, he's doing things Republicans dreamt of. I mean, Donald Trump, every week, the punchline, you talked about it ad nauseum. We all had that punchline that was Infrastructure Week. The lowest Black unemployment in American history, the lowest unemployment for women in 70 years, the lowest Hispanic unemployment in American history, the lowest poverty rates for African Americans in American history, the highest insured rates. I mean, across the board, if any one of those things, remember, you hear Trump all the time talk about the lowest Black unemployment under me. He lost, by the way, 2.9 million jobs. That was Trump's, and close to $9 trillion of debt. I mean, and the fact that they're selling that as somehow was a renaissance in prosperity in the United States, Biden's actually delivered, but we need to deliver that message. And if it's not someone else, then I just said, okay, if I'm not going to see other people do this, I appreciate Pete's been doing great. A lot of people do an amazing job. Like, they're out there for this guy, for Team Biden. But I think we need to get more of us. We need reinforcement with pride. We're not pulling teeth here. We've got the record. I mean, they don't. They have rhetoric. They say, well, we're going to lower interest rates. Really? How are you going to do that? Inflation's out of control. But what are you going to do about it? They got nothing.
So look, if you're wondering why we just endured 15 months of an absolutely baseless push to impeach Joe Biden, now you know why. It's not because he did anything wrong. I mean, hell, even they failed to conjure up a single piece of legitimate evidence to actually impeach him for. It is because they needed a distraction from Biden's strong economy. What Biden did with our economy is what they always promised to do while constantly falling short. Again, there has not been a single Republican administration in my lifetime that's turned in a better economic or jobs performance than a Democratic administration. And Republicans clearly know that, which is why it's going to be nonstop impeachment and Hunter Biden and gas stoves and migrant caravans from now until the election. But take these desperate distraction attempts as a compliment, because they wouldn't have to resort to these tactics if the Democrats weren't overperforming to an extraordinary degree. It's also why Republicans are desperate to convince Americans that the economy is weak. In fact, according to the Wall Street Journal, look how many people think that their own finances are fine, but that the broader economy is bad. Respondents in all of these swing states claim that their finances are strong, but that the nation as a whole is somehow a mess. That is by design. It's the result of a right-wing media machine convincing people that our economy is weak because conservative media refuses to report the truth. And so even though individuals can see the reality about their own finances, and so right-wing media can't manipulate them about that, still they're under the impression that the rest of the US, everybody else, is a disaster. That is what disinformation looks like in real time. Even Donald Trump himself admitted that he wants the economy to crater.
We have an economy that's so fragile, and the only reason it's running now is it's running off the fumes of what we did. When there's a crash, I hope it's going to be during this next 12 months. Because I don't want to be Herbert Hoover.
That's the guy running to preside over the U.S., hoping out loud that our economy crashes so that it'll hurt Joe Biden politically. Donald Trump doesn't care about you, he cares about Trump. So look, I get that Republicans want these numbers to crater. I get that they want nothing more than to have some evidence to point to in order to perpetuate this misnomer that Republicans are responsible stewards of the economy. But the truth, based on the actual numbers, is that that couldn't be farther from reality. The only thing that is virtually guaranteed from Republicans, going back more than 3 decades, is that there will be fewer jobs added, if any, sky-high deficits, and an economic recession. And that'll be followed by a Democrat cleaning cleaning up their messes, just like what happened after Bush 1, Bush 2, and Donald Trump. So while I understand that they are desperate to see cratering GDP and high inflation and low wages and big job losses, the fact is that they're going to have to wait until a Republican takes office before any of those things will happen.